some things to think about before you consider marriage. This is part 2 of that. We set a foundation on last week, giving the biblical interpretation to establish the marriage between a man and a woman, and the order of God, the design of God, the way of God. And now we want to continue with some questions and some things that you might want to think about as you consider marriage. The second thing we talked about last time was, are you willing to follow the directions of God for your life? That's vitally important. We all have to learn how to follow directions. And the reason we have to follow directions is because we don't know the direction we need to go. We all act like sheep go astray. We all have a mind of our own, think we know what we're doing. But we need to hear what thus saith the Lord of hosts. So I want to go to another question. We had some up last week on the screen, and Jeff's going to put those up shortly. But the question I have for you, as you consider at any point marriage, are you sure you're in love? Do you know what love is? And because some people are in want. Some are in lonely. And some may be in lust. You're trying to meet a physical need. You're trying to meet an emotional need. But you're not in love. You like what someone may do to you physically or emotionally, but you're not really in love. So you have to really distinguish what love really means and what love entails. Because love takes on a wide range of things, and it's more than just a feeling. Is your view of the person based upon what you have experienced from them on the outside? Do you have any view of them inwardly? Well, he gave me a pair of shoes. He bought me some this and that. He did a whole lot of stuff. He bought me stuff. He took me to places I'd never been before. He did those kinds of things. But don't mistake that for love. There are a lot of people that can take you a lot of places, but they don't love you. And so you have to understand what that means. And so I'm here to tell you, before you consider marriage, consider whether you really are emotionally in love and have a desire for this person without all the trimmings. Because if you love them, you will love them through hard times. You will love them when they can't take you someplace. You'll love them when they can't physically do what they used to do anymore. And let's look at that, because that could happen the day after you get married. Do I have a witness here? You have to realize that because you walk down the aisle today, you may be in a wheelchair tomorrow. Will you still love them? Will they still love you? Yeah, we said, yeah, preacher, for better or for worse, sickness and health, but you ain't looking at that thing might come quicker than you think. And so when you say these things, you are really saying, I am entering into covenant with you and God, that if you lose your legs tomorrow, I'll be there for you. Are you sure Willie James will do that? Are you sure Panisha will do that? Think about that before you enter into it. Do you really love, they love you? Do you love them? You see, so that's vitally important. Have you dated long enough to identify most of the flaws of one another? And when you identify those flaws, can you live with them? What about new flaws? And how are you going to deal with them? So you need to deal with somebody long enough so that if they're transparent, they show you who they are. You see, the problem is sometimes in marriage, in dating, people show the best side of them. They don't tell you everything. They don't show you everything. And they know how to act like, I will do this if we were married. But time will tell. So sometimes it's better, you don't have to jump into marriage. You don't have to jump in it just because you're in love. Spend some time. Get to know. Be yourself. Because there's things about you he may not end up liking. And the things about him you may not end up liking. And you have to make an assessment whether you can deal with this all the time or sometime or whenever it happens and still not jeopardize your relationship. Because the flaw is so bad to you that it's an aggravation. Now, one of the flaws that I said I would never deal, I just can't deal with popping gum. They're just chewing pop, 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 pop. That was a flaw to me. Now, that might not be a flaw to you, but that's an aggravation. It's hidden in there and messing with my nerves. So I said, well, fortunately, Tara didn't have that problem. So I didn't have to worry about the smacking and that kind of thing. And that's just me messed up, really. I'm with the flaw. People chew gum, it pops sometimes. So, but you have to evaluate, can I deal with this all the time? And do you know that little thing can grow to a big thing? And so you have to look at it and say, can I deal with this? And if it's where you can say, well, it's not bothering me that much, then that's something to consider. But it's the little things in the marriage that can draw you. Say, that's just getting on my nerves. Now you can decide. That person can decide. Well, if that bothers you, I won't do it. And if they decide to do that, but they may say, hey, I enjoy popping my gum. That helps me. That's part of what I like to do. And I'm not popping my gum because of you. Well, that's one of the things you need to consider before you get married to this person. So you have to look at flaws. What flaws? And flaws are what you think are flaws. They're not, it's not necessarily a definition for a flaw. Some people might snore. And we consider it a flaw because it gets on our nerves. But now, while you're dating, you wouldn't know if they slow because you'd have never slept with them. Right? Well, let me just get real. Let me get real. The reality is, most of us slept with a person before, contrary to the will of God. We've done that. So you know if they snow. And if that's an aggravation beyond measure, something to consider. And these are little, it's not big things, little things. So you have flaws, they have flaws. And you have to look at that, whether can I live with these flaws for 60 years? Next thing you need to look at, because you're going to have to consider whether you want to go from meism to weism. From weism to oneism. Meism. Meism is everything have to satisfy me. You are not ready to get married if you're not willing to go to we. You are not ready to get married. If you are painfully selfish, if you have to have it go your way all the time, you're not ready for marriage. You might as well close up the house on that one, because it's no longer one person and their ways. You got to now accept the ways of somebody else and integrate it into your life. And so the whole idea of marriage is the joining of two to make one by the design of God. So you have to accept other things from other people. And are you ready for that is the question. But selfish people can't do it. Selfish people need to stay single. People who have to have it their way need to stay single, because you are not ready. You are not ready to share your money. You're not ready to share your closet. You're not ready to share your food. You're not ready to share nothing. And your money and his money become one money. Now, you do have to work with that. There are ways, and we're not going to get deeply into the finance today, but there are ways to work that thing where everybody's happy. Because if you have one bank account, and somebody's going down there and getting stuff and buying stuff, and the other one does not know that, some things can happen. You can overspend. You thought you had enough money in there. When I looked the other day, it was money in there. Now it's gone. And the other person hasn't said anything. Now, there's nothing wrong with you managing your checking account with the same bank and she managing her account in the same bank account. You both know what each other have, but you spending your money, part of the money, and she's spending hers. Some people say, no, that's not one, but some people can't do that. Some people say, well, I see this hat I want to buy, and you forget to tell husband, and you just buy it. So you have to be careful about it. To some people, that can become an issue. Okay, next. If you are still drawn to the opposite sex in a way that you know will lead to a transgression, are you sure you're ready to be married? I mean, every dress that come by, every man that come by, you still looking and you still listening. You're not ready to get married. You don't want a queen. You want a servant. You don't want a king. You want a servant. I'm not through. I ain't through trying. I like to still go out here and mess with a few of these girls out here. You ain't ready. You're not ready. You need to get your head together if you're going to marry somebody. If sex is that big a deal where you can't tell a woman, no, I'm dating somebody. You all right, you look good, you this and you all that, but I'm not dealing with that. Somebody else has my heart. And that's the reason why you will do it for a lot of times. It's just, somebody doesn't, the person you thought had your heart really doesn't have your heart. Because you can't go through the process of getting with this next person with that other person on your mind. But men, I have to say, we have a problem. Our logic is, I don't love her. If she want to do that with me, I'll do it, but I don't love you. I'll drop you like a hot potato. Once I finish, same thing with some women. But if you can't control your sex drive, your sex attraction, and you're around here dating somebody, you're getting ready to get married, you're getting ready to establish something, you have to be loyal to that person before you get married. We are together now we're dating. Now, if you decide to break up your dating, that's a different thing. But you're dating now, I'm committed to you until we decide what we're going to do. So we have to be very careful. If you're still attracted, anybody can come along and pull you into their bedroom, you got a problem. I hope I'm not too graphic, but the issue is these are the real issues. These not the fake issues. This ain't fake news. This is what's happening out here every day. So, if you have that problem, are you sure? Are you sure you're ready for marriage? So you'll need to think about that as you, and that's a personal, individual decision that has to be made. And so now there's a reason why this is very important, because you hurt people when you do that. People get hurt. The person is thinking you're with them, but you're hurting them. And then what it does with some women, some men, is it takes them into a place where they just don't want to be bothered with it. They can't trust nobody. Because so many people have claimed to be loyal. Yeah, baby. It's just me and you. And they turn out to be liars. And you harm people in more ways than you think. So be ready for it. I'm done. When you get ready to get married, you are ready to step away from the old things. These are old things you probably were doing or may not have been doing, but you got to step away from that. And that now you're committing yourself to this one person. So the one of the things that follow this is have you presented the real you? If you still got play in you, tell the person you're dealing with so they can make a decision. I still want to go out. We could still be together, but I want to go out here and have sex with somebody. So, is you with that? All right. Be transparent. So, if you with that, something wrong with you. But the thing is, but the thing is you need to start making decisions. I don't care how fine he is. I don't care how he is, how they are, how good they look to you, and all that the specs that they meet. If they can't be loyal to you and love you only as in that way, you don't need them. You need to make a different decision. It may be hard, but you need to make that turn and say, no, I'm sorry. I'm not going to get hurt messing with you. And I want something that's real. Now, here's the thing. God knows what you want. God knows what you need. Your specs may have to change a little bit. I said your specs. The specifications. What you looking for. Because some of us try to go too high shelf when you can't get high shelf. That's right. So you end up trying to get somewhere with somebody that you're not designed to be with. So, transparency. I can't say how important that is, and of course, we mentioned before how important transparency is. You have to be you. Don't go into a relationship trying to meet that other person's design. Be you. Because see, that's who you got to be the rest of the marriage. You're going to get tired of playing a role. You will get tired of playing Miss Ann when you Miss Smith. You can't play a role. You can't be an actor the whole time. Obviously, at some point, the real you is going to come out, and there's going to be problems. Think about it. If people can accept you the way you are, you don't need them. Now, you know your flaws. There are things you can improve on. But you still have to have an acceptance of yourself. What makes you comfortable, what makes you sound as a person. God didn't make everybody the same. We all are different. We all got different ways and situations. The question, can we mesh this with somebody that is willing to accept it? With our flaws and with their flaws, because they have them too. So you have to do that. So that's very important. Transparency. Be you. If you don't like to go to movies, tell them straight up, I don't like to go to movies. That's odd, but if you don't like to go to movies, you don't like to go to movies. You must be for real. 100. Next thing you need to look at, there's got to be honesty. You got to have some honesty. So you got to honestly look at the cultural background of where you come from and the cultural background of where they come from. Because people come from different experiences, different family training, different. Some have some training and some don't. Some have some things they've learned simply by growing up in that culture. Now, if you get with somebody that may be of a different race, they may not know nothing about okra and greens and hog maw, fat back. See, your culture is different. You ate different stuff. If you're from the islands, you've eaten stuff that we have not ate over here. There's different things, different cultures. Can you receive that and can you accept that? That's an individual decision. You need to look at the background of the person that you're dealing with, and it will explain some of why they are who they are, because they've been raised that way. They've been in that culture. The next thing you have to deal with is how to handle disagreement. When things go wrong, or you have opposition to what they're saying, do you have a methodology you've already talked about to handle disagreement? Or do you just do it the way you've been doing things? See, that might create more disagreement. You ought to have a way to handle an agreement. Okay, we disagree on that. We are going to do this when we disagree. you might agree, you should agree, never to disagree in public. You may disagree with it, what a person is doing, but you don't let anger of what that has happened take advantage of you. You agree now. You look at Hillary Clinton. What came out on her husband. She didn't go off in front of the cameras. She waited till she got Bill on the inside. And she dogged Bill out because of what he did. There's a sensible thing, a sensible way. Now, what would have her possibilities of running for president been if she had went upside his head on TV? She's smart. She's bad as hurtful as that was. She had sense enough not to mess herself up too. You got to be thinking. So because outward bursts like that can cause all kinds of issues. So you have to have a way of handling your aggression. Is the person you dealing with, do they have a history of aggression? Do they hit folks? Do they I had to go to prison because I hit so and so, but I'm out of jail now. See, now you messing with this man. Now he was an aggressor. How you know he's healed up? How do you know he's learned a lesson? Have a tendency to hit women or women that hit men. Or pour hot grits on you at night. See, you have all this aggression. And that never is going to pan out into anything because you're going to end up in such a negative way with each other that even if you're together, you're not really together. So these are things you need to think about, talk about, because the physical aggression is an overt way of showing you don't know how to control yourself. You don't know how to bring yourself under subjection. And a lot of us have a lot of negative language that we use in those times. That's a form of aggression. And we say the wrong things. We say things to stick a needle in somebody. And that can cause all kinds of problems for you. So you have to be careful about that. Have you discussed how you will make decisions? You need to discuss how you will make decisions. Is he going to make them all? Are you going to make some of them? You going to take care of this? He's going to take care of that? Or you just make a decision over here and nobody know about it? You need to discuss how you're going to make decisions about, especially, and you need to make decisions on things that are small things to make sure you know how to do it on big things. You have to have a format of what we're going to do when a decision needs to be made. Don't just randomly go out and do something. I'm going to go do what I want to do. You don't tell me what to do. See, now that's selfish. Have you discussed mutual respect? Now, I'm going to tell you what messes with a man is when his woman offends or says something negative about him in public. It's not saying you don't need to address it, but you need to address it in the right environment. If you negative calling your husband everything but a child of God in front of everybody because you're upset with him, you're only putting gas on the fire. And you're going to tempt the person to do and say things they might not normally do. Mutual. You wouldn't do that with a woman either. If you're going to do something in that regard, because you're going to disagree, he might do something in public that you think was totally stupid. But when you get him back to the crib, deal with that. Don't do it in public. Because a man feels like you're minimizing his headship. You're disrespecting his headship. Now, the Bible says the husband is the head of the wife. So you have a situation where if you disrespect him in public, you are saying he ain't too good a head to me. And you ought to support him publicly. There's some men that do anything in the world for you when you give them the kind of support they need. And see, some of us, we see some other man who has supposedly his act all together. See, you ought to be like so-and-so. You don't want to do that. You are questioning his manhood. You're questioning his capacity. He may be doing the best that he can do.
That's right. Amen.
So you can talk about it, but don't do it in public.
All right.
You know, when I was growing up in my neighborhood, we lived in the poor part of Orlando. You'd have people out in the street fighting. Husband done got drunk, come in, they're all out on the porch. Boom, boom. And now we're looking at that, and we're learning. Apparently, this is what you do with wives. So we were young kids, we didn't know. But we learned as we grew up, this is not the appropriate conduct. There has to be mutual respect for the person you love, even when they make mistakes, even when they go off the chain, even when they go off the reservation somewhat in what you've agreed to do. Bring them back, but bring them back in the privacy of your home. A soft answer turneth away wrath. You can speak to a man in such a soft way that it melts his capacity to be upset with you. You don't have to cuss him out. That's adding fuel to the fire. But if you talk to him with soundness, you'll get more out of him. But if you treat him like he's stupid, he may be stupid, but don't treat him like he's stupid. Don't treat him like he's stupid. This is real. You're going to help your relationship, because a home ought to be a place of peace. It's not a place where we go to fight and have our things going on that way. Your home. You both work. Most people today, both of them working. The wife and the husband. You work on jobs, you come back home, you're tired you're irritated, you have to put up with stuff on the job. The home is a place of rest, comfort. You try to help each other get through the day. So if you have a confrontation, wait until everything calms down and then talk about it. Don't come in, man, come in the door. You coming at the door fussing. You come in the door and your husband coming. You ain't got in the door. You haven't got your head together. You're still dealing with stuff that was on the job, the traffic along the highway, and now you're getting hit at the front door. What do you think is going to happen? Have a way to deal with it, a time to deal with it. Just something to think about. Now, is a job important to you? The type of job. If you went to college and you want a college guy, you want somebody making some money. Sometimes a job can keep you this idea that this guy with a white shirt and tie will make a better husband than a guy that's just doing other kinds of work. He just does. He's got his this and that and the other. If you prefer, then you're limiting yourself. Because there are guys who work hard every day who are very good people. And they don't make a lot of money. But if you just got to have this kind of person, all I'm saying is that you're limiting your capacity to find a good husband or a good wife. So these are things you need to think about before you think about it. So I need a guy that's a doctor, I need a lawyer, I need a this or that. That might not show up because there's a lot of folk looking for that same thing. And you'll be by yourself trying to wait till Mr. Right comes along in terms of job. You better invest in what kind of person they are. That's going to be very important because you can find a guy with a suit on that goes to work every day is absolutely a mean person. And is less apt to put up with your stuff because he says, I can go get somebody else. I don't mind sending you your check. I'll go get me somebody else tomorrow. See, you have to be careful because you're looking for what's genuine. How will you raise your children? What are your methods for raising children? You need to talk about that, discuss that, how you want to do it. Because people come from different cultures, different training, different influence. Are you spanking? Are you giving time out? Are you saying go in the room? See, now some of us grew up with switches. Some of us grew up with strops. And if you have a kind of persuasion either way, you need to work that out before you get into marriage. Because some people say, well, no, you're not hitting my baby. You're not going to hit him. And that's the way they see it. Although the Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. That's where those other folk got it from. There's nothing wrong with spanking children. It's a difference between spanking and beating and hurting in a different way. Now, the objective is to hurt, but not disable. Not disable. Now, some of you folks that grew up in my generation, you got beat with water hoses, switches, anything they got their hand on. See, then maybe this generation doesn't experience that. I had what we call the Board of Education. That's what I use for my kids. We go in the room and we deal with the Board of Education. But see, my wife and I were on one accord on how we was going to take care of business. So they couldn't run to one, and, that kind of thing. But that can be a dividing issue in how important is education. Because some people say, well, let him just, as long as he all right, doing all right, he ain't getting thrown out. Others have more demands on their children. They want good grades. They want some other things. So you got to be on one accord on where you want to go with your kids and how you treat them. Some people want to go to church, some people don't. But that's an earlier thing we talked about. You can't expect your house to be in order if you have one or two people want to serve God. One person want to serve God and the other don't. It's going to be a division. So it's important how you look at education in your family and how you go about doing that. Then there's something called goals that you want to. You might want to have a goal. Somebody might want to move from working at a company to working for themselves. The goal is to move here to there. The goal might be to take a vacation in Rome somewhere. How are you going to handle that? There may be opposing goals. You want to go back to school, and so do he. Who's going? So you have to look at this. You now sit down. The Bible says, come now, let us reason together. Let's sit down and talk about this thing and how we're going to do it. Maybe it's more beneficial for you to go to school and me support you until you finish, and then I come back and do what I'm going to do. It may. So you have to have a heart to reason. So most of the things I ran into in talking to people is we get upset about something and we think the answer is to get a separation. When the answer may be, you just need to sit down and talk this out the right way. You need to look at it and say, hey, I was selfish in my thinking, and let's just actually put down all of the foolishness and let's talk about how we can best do this. We talked about a little bit the influence of people outside the family. The outside your marriage, I should say that. Friends. How do they influence you? We talked about family last week. They can be a negative influence because they have a leaning on somebody's side. If you may have done something in the marriage, but they turn on your husband because you upset. So they're going to defend you anyway. But you wrong. So you can't You can't expect family members to look at things on an equitable basis, nor should they be giving you any advice that way, because they're not in. That's a whole different family, a whole different thing. So, lastly, I want to talk to you about money. Money is one of the worst issues that come up in the family unit. How you handle your money can determine whether there's going to be some peace or there's going to be some conflict. You need to establish a budget. Everybody needs to establish a budget in your house. How you do it is there are different ways to approach it, but you need to have a tolerance on how much money you're spending. Everybody need to be aware of what you're doing between the husband and the wife. And you have to be willing to say, we can't do that now. You have to say, we can defer this because we don't have the money to do it now. So if you invest in your marriage and not the trinkets and the places you going and the sights you seeing, invest in you. Invest in both of you. The time you spend together is valuable. So you went to Paris. Now you come back from Paris, you're broke. Now you can't pay bills the way you were doing. Now you've added another headache on top of maybe another headache. When you maybe should have said, let's go to Daytona and let it go. But as long as you and I are together, that's what matters. So you have to have, so establishing a budget is very important, church. It's one of the most important things we need to do, because if we don't have it, we're going to misspend, we're going to spend it, we're never really caught up because we don't know what we're doing. And I have offered in the past certain types of budgets that you can utilize, that you can use to keep track of your money. You always have track of where you are financially. There's all kinds of apps you can get on your phone that you'll know what you got to the penny every day. So you need to do that. And now, in terms of money, also save. You need to start a savings account when you get married. You need to put that money, whatever you determine that's going to be, in that savings account religiously every time you get paid. And forget it's there. Always know how much you got, but forget it's there. Because if you don't save, you're going to run into some problems. And you can have a purpose for saving something, but you do need to save. And you need to start your children on that same concept. You'd be surprised how much money, if I had started as a kid saving $5 a week, by the time I got to this age, I'd have had me some money. Just $5. And I used to go out to the orange grove and pick about 35 boxes. I could get $5. So the concept here is workable. You just need to do it. So think about that before you get married. What are you going to do? Because this is a lifetime issue. It's a lifetime issue. Now, the Lord has put in his scriptures so many things about money you would be surprised. We have what you call Crown Ministries, which is a total instruction on how to spend money and what the Bible says about money. When we were at the smaller church, we had 2 sessions on Crown Ministry, which teaches you from a biblical standpoint how to spend your money and what the Bible says about it, so that you don't go out there and run your credit card up to the max, pay $27 a month for the rest of your life.
That's right.
And there are people sitting up with 5 and 6 credit cards maxed out. They're paying $35 and $40 a month and they're gonna be paying until they die. So you have to be very careful about this. And so I'm not going to spend any more of your time, but I wanted to give you just a few of these things to help you to understand these are going to be issues that you will face once you do get married. But don't face them when you get married. Face them now. Deal with them now.